headset.
Okay.
All right. So now we are live. All right. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to our July 7th reorganization and business meeting. And I would also like to particularly welcome Beth McFadden, who is our new board member, who will be doing her oath of office and joining us officially starting today. So welcome, Beth. We're so pleased to have you join us. I'm looking forward to working together.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to working with you all too. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So now we will move on to approval of the agenda. So recommended action that the Board of Education approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. So the oaths of office, actually for all three of the recently elected board members, myself, Neil Haber, and Beth McFadden, we signed and had them notarized separately, given our virtual timeframe with Tracy Borges, our district clerk. So we have all taken those oaths of office.
So normally we would stand up and raise our right hand and do all that, which I
We
guess
would.
really isn't necessary so long as we have signed our oath. So
Correct.
if you want to, if Tracy wants to like have us all stand up in our house or wherever we are and do it, we could, but I don't know, whatever people want.
Is it legally required?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
All right.
You signed it.
So we signed it and we had it notarized. So, all right. Well, with that, we can move on to the election of board officers.
I would like to nominate Sarah Carrier for president.
But first, I think we should say what we're doing here, which is a nomination of the president. I will second the nomination of Sarah Carey for president.
Why, thank you. All right. Do we have any other nominations?
I'll just say all in favor.
Well, we have to close nomination first.
Oh, okay.
You have to declare nominations are closed.
Sure.
All right. Well, if there are no other nominations, we can. I feel like I can't declare that.
I'll say, as the old vice president, I'll say all in favor.
Aye.
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 Abstention.
I'll
Nays?
abstain from that.
You don't have to abstain on your own.
You're allowed to vote for yourself.
Yeah,
You're allowed to vote.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. It's unanimous.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm happy to continue serving as president again this year. And we will move on to recommended action that the Board of Education nominate Brian Logis for the office of vice president of the Board of Education.
Second.
Wait, Sarah, did you move it?
I did move it.
Okay, and Iris second.
Iris, you second?
Second.
Iris seconded. All right. Do we have any other nominations? All right. We will close nominations then. And we say all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
Aye.
Abstain? All right. Motion carries. Congratulations, Brian.
All right,
Welcome
thank you.
to board officers.
Thank you.
And you will get the vice president's sash to wear
Yeah.
when you're in the parade.
There you go.
I was told there was a bottle of wine. No?
It was a bribe. Don't tell anybody.
At this time, I will verbally give the board officers their oath, and then I will send them their oath to sign in front of me virtually at a later, another time, if that's okay.
Great.
Yep.
Okay.
Tracy,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
signed. Does that have to be notarized?
Yes, it does. It's the oath, and I'll make an appointment
Or you'll
with
have to
them.
make arrangements for that. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So Brian and Sarah, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of Board President and Board Vice President for the term of 1 year according to the best of your abilities?
I do.
I do.
Okay. We are good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing quickly, Sarah?
Yes.
I want to thank you and Brian both for deciding to take on officership, you continuing and Brian to take on an officership. It's so important that the board members all get an opportunity to sit in that role and appreciate the work that goes into it. So I want to thank you both because I know it's a lot of work and I know you have all of our support and I can't wait to see the great things you do.
Thank you very much. I would also like to thank Andrea Fury, who has been vice president this year with me. It was my first year in president, and it was an immense help and able to lend a lot of guidance to me as I was trying to learn this role. So thank you so much, Andrea.
Absolutely.
Sarah, it was a great opportunity working with you, really. But I'll continue to work with you in a new way.
Exactly. All right. Well, now we have moved on into our next part, which is part of the work session, which is discussion of our board committees. I did send everybody the different committees ahead of time, and we will work through this. But I do want to note that given that we have a business meeting and certainly a lot of other things in the rest of the agenda for the evening, if we find that we're having some problems getting through this, within a reasonable time frame, I would suggest perhaps we table and finish assignment of the committees at the board retreat. So I think give ourselves, it's 7:12 now. If we give ourselves about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and see where we get from there. That work for everybody?
Yeah.
Great. All right.
Yep.
And Brian, your first act as vice president, and I will ask you to kind of keep an eye on the time as we go through these things to make sure we don't go over that time. We stay efficient. All right. So with that noted, as traditionally we do, we allow our newest board member to select the committees that they are interested in and would like to serve on in this coming year. We generally make, if I get this wrong, let me know. We serve on 2 board committees and then other committee liaisons as your availability and your interest would dictate. So
Great. Thank
And
you.
I guess-
Of course. Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Beth, for your edification, if there's
Sure.
any questions you have about the nature of what the committees are doing or the time commitment, please ask before you volunteer if you feel you need.
Yeah, no, thank you, Neil. I really appreciate you saying that because that was actually going to be my first question in terms of my question about both the committees and then some of the things like building planning councils, because I was really interested actually in Iris and Andrea and Sarah were helpful enough to help me understand what those councils do. And I understand that I might have a little bit more flexibility to attend those. So I wanted to, because I would be very much interested in CET and PVC in the high school for the building planning council. So I wanted to weigh that against some of the other committees that might really require a really significant time commitment. Yeah, so I guess if you want to let me know, board, which ones you think require the most time or expertise, that would be helpful. I have thought about which committees I think I could probably start in the first year being helpful with, but if you feel like, hey, there's one committee that you really need someone who can dedicate like 40 hours a week to, just tell me that. That would be helpful to know. So
40 hours.
yeah, I know, Brian, right? I know. You're like, oh my God. No, but that was an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? If you're saying, hey, this committee really, this is an intensive committee and, or likewise.
I mean, we can say, like, for example, the communications committee meets once a month and then
Once a month, okay.
As needed. So there may be, there's the audit committee is probably the lightest committee that probably meets a couple like 3 times a year.
Okay.
And it's required. It's a good
required,
committee.
right. Yeah.
Advocacy committee is sort of, again, it's kind of hard to figure out what the pace of it will be. We're probably facing a lot of things, but normally probably not more than once a month. Board development, again, maybe once a month. And then like right now we're working on the retreat. So we've been meeting weekly for about like an hour at a time.
Right.
Any other committees?
And
that
then policy committee.
Oh, and then the policy committee is very in depth, but I was on it this year. We didn't get a chance to meet that often. We met maybe 4 or 5 times. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I think we'd probably like to meet more frequently than 4 or 5 times to catch up with the work we need to do. Those committee meetings are with the administration, so their time scheduling has to be with those members of administration who sit with us, and probably last about 2 hours in the evening, because can't do it during the day when administration is busy doing their other work. And there's a certain amount of homework that is hopefully done. I tend to do more of it because that's where I am. I've kind of had that area, but that's about the time frame. The good thing about the policy committee is that it provides the members, and particularly for Beth, for you as a new member, kind of an entree into a whole lot of different areas involving school governance.
Right.
So I know Iris had said at one point, relatively early in her tenure, that was good, if I remember correctly, it was good to be there because she could learn about a lot of different things and, kind of really get a sense of what we're governed by. But that's, you may decide that you want to get your feet wet a little bit in different areas before you go to that.
Right. That's very helpful. Oh, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry.
The one thing I would add is that probably the 2 busiest committees tend to be communications and policy. So you probably wouldn't want to be on both of those.
That's okay. That's very helpful. Thank you. That's what I was just sensing. Okay.
And then I would say for the liaisons, like for the different task force, those are generally, they can vary a little bit more or less, like once a month during the school year. So they're not usually over the summer.
Right. Right.
Although that depends on the committee. And health and safety is only 4 times a year.
Okay.
And I was just going to add with advocacy, I think we probably want to try and build a very strong advocacy committee this year. I do believe that's something we really need to focus on as we move forward. Regardless of which committees you go on, one of the most valuable things you can do is try to cycle through all of the committees at one point while you're on the board, because it's just like with the officers, it's really good for every board member to have a working knowledge of what each committee does. So even if you say this year, okay, I'm going to start off with these 2, that doesn't mean in the next, 2 years that you won't cycle yourself through so you can get an understanding of the others.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, based on that feedback, I was initially going to say audit, just because I'm not a professional auditor, but I do have a little bit of experience, more than a little. I have some balance, I have experience analyzing financial statements. So there, I feel like it would be interesting and fun and for me. And then I was either going to say communications or advocacy. So I have some flexibility there. I think communications also this year are going to be crucial and for the community, and have some ideas there, and also around advocacy. So depending on what other people wanted, I could be flexible, but those were the other 2 areas I was very particularly interested in: communications and advocacy. So.
Okay.
Could I ask a question about one that I'm not sure is there? And that is, what is the status of the Culture of Respect Task Force?
That should be actually on there. It's the
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we should
culture
add that to
so the list that I emailed everybody, that is the accurate and up-to-date list.
So
of the
I'll
different
add culture of
liaisons.
respect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we still, and I don't think we have technology anymore as a committee, do we?
We do not.
Right. So then the only other thing I would reiterate is that I'd be very eager to serve on the building planning councils. Iris and Andrea and Sarah helped me understand what those councils were. Originally, I thought those were about like literally architecture. So they were very helpful in explaining that to me. And I think that it would be wonderful to be the board liaison.
Is there a particular building planning council you would like to serve on?
Yeah, if it's too many, sure, I could. CET or PVC would be either one, but
Okay.
I have 2 children at CET, so it would be wonderful to be able to have another excuse to be there in the building. And
Why
It is
not?
great. I served on the building planning council at CET for 2 years while Owen was there. So it was, it's nice to
yeah,
be there and you get to interact. It's the group is made up of faculty and other parents, PTA representatives. So
yeah, it sounds like a great group. So, but again, I can be flexible. So
Okay.
if it turns out someone else, but CET would be my first choice, and then probably PVC in high school.
great. All righty. Were there any other board liaisons? You certainly don't need to take on any more. If there were any more that you had an interest in, I'm not
I
telling you you need
have
to.
done the culture of respect, and I thought that was excellent. Coalition and also student faculty. So there were a lot that I can be a swing person for a lot of those, and reentry. But I understand that reentry has been assigned,
Right.
and that we're not moving those assignments. But yeah, so I also coalition and student faculty are 2 I
The
could
Student
also
Faculty
be.
Congress. Great.
Yeah. So
All right.
absolutely.
Sarah, I don't think the coalition is continuing, correct?
No, I
Dr. O?
think, did you mean culture of respect, right?
I meant,
Culture of
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
but the
I said,
No, the coalition is listed, and I do believe their funding expired. Correct, Dr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Their funding did, but we still have some carryover money that Lori Dean has been speaking about how we use and has been asking for feedback from coalition members.
Okay.
yeah. So Sarah, to clarify, yes, culture of respect, student faculty congress, I would also be interested. And I didn't understand coalition wasn't carrying over. So
Okay. All right. So
And Beth,
yeah.
Student Faculty Congress meets
at 8,
every,
yeah,
I'm sorry?
at 8 in the morning.
Yep.
No, but I think they meet every
8th day.
8 days. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just so you realize.
No,
what
I
you-
know. That's why I'm saying I would prefer building planning council, because I feel like that is probably where I could, that's why I'm saying building planning council. And I could even do, because those I could actually manage during a day. But yeah, student faculty plus a building council would probably be a lot.
that would be. All right. Great. I don't know how you would like to move on from here. I can open it up to the next person who's eager to get their choices in. Josh,
go.
I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, I think I would like to step off of advocacy.
Okay.
This, especially since it sounds like there's people who are eager on that. And I think I'd like to step off of building planning council because I've been doing that a long time. It's been, in fact, I think I've been on building planning council for all of my now 9+ years on the board. So I'm going to let that go to somebody else. I think I'd like to stick with communications because I think there's some work in progress I'd like to see through.
Mhm.
And given the new order in which I'm working from home and probably will be for the foreseeable future, I think that Student Faculty Congress. So I like to put my hat in for Student Faculty Congress.
Give that
And-
to Josh, not me.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I've done that a number of years, but that's fine.
yeah, I like, if you don't mind, Neil, I know you've done it a long time, but
You could join
Um,
building planning council, Neil.
yeah, let's swap.
The
You
one problem is I'd like to, but it depends. My question is, some of the building planning councils meet the same day as the board business meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Is high school one of them? Has
Yes.
it been?
The high
Okay.
school always meets the same day as the business
So-
meeting.
Okay,
Neil, if
so
there's
why
something-
don't I subject obviously to what happens at work, why don't I take building plan, BPC in the high school? Because that way I can just, make sure that I have that afternoon or day at home. I have no idea whether I'll be working at home forever or never or what. But
Perfect.
let's do that.
Great.
Okay. And
All
I'll go
Josh,
student
you
faculty. So I think I say communication, student faculty Congress. We haven't talked about liaisons. That we're
Well,
gonna do
Student
that.
Faculty Congress is a liaison. You still need to pick another board committee.
Right. No. I was thinking about like the bicycle and pedestrian.
Oh, yeah. Bicycle pedestrian isn't,
That's not a committee. That's a
liaison.
village liaison thing. And maybe audit.
Audit. All right.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
because I haven't done that for a while.
That is a good one.
Okay. I did something today. I said something to Tracy that almost made her fall over. I said, maybe I won't do policy this year.
What?
Feeling okay.
Changed it. And so I told her, I'm just joking. I just want to see all those looks on your faces. So I will do policy, and I could go back to advocacy again because there will be some changes. And if I'm going to be doing West Putt, as I have in the past, that ties in. Because whoever is on somebody from advocacy is also going to be the West Putt representative. So I will take on those two unless somebody really wants to get into both of them, or a number of people do, perhaps Beth and someone else, in which case, I can move away from there. So let me put me down for advocacy and West Putt for the moment, and subject to obviously some change.
And Building Planning Council.
And Building Planning Council in the high school, yes.
Perfect. All right, who's next?
I can go
Iris?
next.
Great.
I'm just going to look at the 5 standing committees. I'm not
Yep.
worried about the liaison committees at this point. The one committee I cannot do is advocacy, but I applaud anyone that's willing to take on that mantle, and I will happily give you as much information that comes through my ears as possible. I will, it is going to be a big year. I'm willing to do any of the committees, in all honesty. I love being on board development. It's one of the committees that I think is really important for our board. And I really enjoy being on communications, but if there are 3 other board members that feel it's, time for Iris to move on, I'll move on. Neil, I'll do policy, but it's 2 hours. I can't do 4-hour meetings. So I can do policy, but I really can't. I get tired after 3 hours.
I understand that, and we've been trying to start at 7, not 7:30, so we make that a little bit easier. And certainly when Betsy was there, right, and even when Andrea was there, and Andrea would say, I am telling you that you can't keep Ed out too late. You can't keep Debbie out too late.
Right.
You have to let them go to sleep. So she was always bugging me like that. So
Right, I was. It's true.
anyway, but I mean,
Thank
if,
you,
if
Lena.
that's something that you want to get back to,
Oh,
because I know
no, so
you-
the 2
Okay.
that I'm on board development and communication, I'm more than willing to stay on both of them. But if we find that there's an interest in those 2 committees, I will shift. Audit is really, I did audit before. I think it's a good entry committee. So I don't want to take that away from anyone that needs the lighter schedule.
Okay, so Andrea, Brian.
So I'm there's actually, I think we're all going to have to take at least 3 when I'm looking at the numbers. I don't think 2 is enough. So I know I worked in policy last year, and I kind of felt like it was the first time I was on policy, and I would kind of like to continue there because we were just getting going, and I felt like I was just getting the feel of it. But I'm flexible about that. I'm interested in board development, and I would definitely be interested in working on advocacy. So, and then in terms of liaison committees, we'll see what people's interests are. Because we're on the, my issue is kind of funny in that my workday kind of starts at 3, like in the afternoon. And so a lot of these are afternoon, the liaison meetings are all afternoon committees. So I was really getting squeezed last year. So I don't know that I have as much flexibility to do a lot of those afternoon meetings.
That's understandable. That's
Yep.
so. You know what? We'll go through. We'll get everybody's choices, and then we'll kind of see where we are. So Brian, that puts you up. In terms of our 5 board committees, we have 3 people who have expressed interest in advocacy, 2 for audit, 2 for board development, 3 for communications, and 3 for policy.
2 for policy.
No, 3.
3.
Neil,
Well,
Iris,
Iris said,
Neil,
Iris said
Oh,
she
Iris.
could possibly do policy, right?
Right.
but only 2 hours at a time.
Right.
Right. Okay. But I know that among those, Beth is
Right,
3
and
of those.
Beth said communications and advocacy. So, or one or the other. Sorry, not
Yeah,
and
correct.
or.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of those we'll swap out too. So,
Okay.
Who's
Based
the
on
second
what
person
you
on
would like.
audit? I missed, who's the second one on audit?
Beth
Beth
and
and
John.
Beth and Josh.
Beth and Josh. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I can do the 3rd on audit, and I can do the 3rd on communications if that works.
So
Well,
we've
there's
got 3
Beth-
on communications
Oh, you
thus
did-
far.
Oh,
Beth,
what did I
Josh,
miss?
and Iris are on communication.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But no,
And what was the other one? Board
but Beth is on, Beth has advocacy, audit, and communications.
Right. So Beth, would you prefer communications to advocacy? Which one would you prefer?
I prefer communications, but
Okay.
I can be flexible.
Well,
So
Go ahead. I was just going to say, Beth, given a lot of the things that you have talked about in terms of communications being an area that you've got ideas and perhaps concerns, that might be something that's really good for you to hold on to.
I would welcome.
I don't want to
yeah.
take that away from Brian, but
Yeah.
on the other hand, I know it's something that's really been.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is something I think that needs that this oncoming year is going to be something we have to focus very clearly on. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. So yeah, I just had my list strong. So how about audit and board development?
Audit and board development. Perfect. So then I'm going to cross then you off of advocacy, Beth.
Awesome.
And while I have been on communications my whole time on the board, I'm going to step back, and I know I couldn't quite do it last year, so I took on both, which was a lot with the president and communications committee. So I'm going to step back on that. But I do think that advocacy is a very important area this year. So I do think that is where I would like to focus my efforts.
So Sarah, I just have a quick question, because I know over the past couple of years, it's been kind of a seamless thing to have a board officer on the communications committee.
Mhm.
So could Brian serve on the communications committee as a board officer position? So it just is really helpful.
So, well, we can't have a fourth. We can only have 3 people.
Oh, but he's not a, if he serves, Sarah, if he's on the, if he comes to the communications committee, he's coming as an officer, not as an ex officio, not as a standing member.
Yeah.
Okay. We can
And we-
talk about that, because I had actually gotten some conflicting feedback on that when I did training through Westput with regard to the ex officio and whether or not that was
To be
Whether
honest,
that
it's-
hit the quorum issue.
Right.
it's
I think
kind
it does still become a quorum issue.
I think it becomes a quorum issue.
There's
Well-
Andrea, do you have the book that I have that discusses it?
not in front of me, but I'll look into it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we actually have the book. I think it's from the lawyers that allows that, because then you're not a voting member. But that being said,
I know, because that being said, I think, I don't know, Sarah, I just kind of think it's a good idea for a board officer to be on the communications committee.
I mean, and I don't disagree with that. I just, yeah, it was,
A lot.
I was trying to let it go myself this year. So
I know.
Um,
I normally would be like, oh yeah, but it you know.
listen, I can step off of communication if Josh feels he has a good enough handle on where we are and can carry the muster so that we don't start fishtailing. Because you would have Beth
Yeah.
and Brian as new members, 2 new members on the committee. And remember, we're only talking board communications. We're not doing district communications.
right.
So for board communications, would you feel comfortable, Josh, taking that
Yeah.
on?
Sure.
Then I'll step off of communications, and that way you have an officer on it. But we got to keep it tight. We don't do, we're not the district communicators. We're the board communicators.
Does
District
that
has
work
its
for
own-
you, Brian?
I can do that.
Okay, so then in that case, though, why don't I take over board development and I will join Iris and Andrea on board development?
Okay.
Which I know
So-
we generally have usually had board officers on, but we didn't this
Right.
past year. So
Just a
Well,
quick
Andrea was on.
clarification though on
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It sounded as though Beth,
Forgotten so soon.
did you feel like the communications was for community?
No, I
Oh.
understood it to mean
You
for
did,
the
okay.
board.
I got
I have contributions I'd like to make for the board,
Got it.
and
Okay.
I have separate concerns about communications to the community from the district. But I
Okay.
understand that this community doesn't address that.
I
Well,
gotcha.
but it does address also communications from the community to the board.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
communications by the board to the community.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Neil, for
Just
thank
we-
you, Brian.
make
Yeah,
sure
no,
we
Brian,
clarify
thank
what-
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for clarifying that. And thank you, Neil, for
Sure.
reiterating my concern.
So
So-
Josh,
so
that
what I
means you'll
see-
take on the town hall, okay? You'll take on setting that up
Sure.
with the assistance, of course, of Beth and
Yeah.
Brian. I don't mean to, but I mean, just
Yeah.
in terms of
No, it's just you.
Absolutely.
that vision.
Sure.
So
And
what
so-
I have on my list, let's make sure we're all right. Advocacy. Me, Andrea, Sarah.
Correct.
correct.
Audit. Beth, Josh, Brian.
Correct.
Communications. Beth, Josh, Brian.
Correct.
Board development. Iris, Andrea, Sarah.
Correct.
Policy, me, Andrea, Iris.
Correct.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't say it. How? Now I'm on, okay, I'm on policy. All right.
Yeah,
You said 2 hours.
Iris, you're on 2.
Yeah, no, I policy was okay, I'm good.
Are you
Okay, 'cause
sure?
yeah, you're good as long as
2 hours.
2 hours.
Iris.
You're on notice,
Iris,
Neil.
one other thing about policy that I do,
Policy.
right, is I try to send lots
Love
of
Iris.
ahead of time for review.
I know, Neil.
You
So
can
then,
actually just
the
hit
faster
leave
we look
meeting.
at them,
There you go.
you know.
There's
the
a
faster we
red
look
button.
ahead, it's
Great
fine.
progress last year. We really did.
Yeah.
We went through a lot of stuff until we closed down.
No,
We were flying, so we'll just keep that up in September, as soon as we're all back together.
All right. Well, I think so. I think we've got our board committees settled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, so that will require, the members of those committees, you guys can circle up after this meeting in the following days to start to plan first meetings and figure out chairs and set meeting schedules, et cetera, things like that. And that can just be reported back to.
I do have one thing I have to interject. Communications, I didn't foresee stepping off of communications. There's a meeting set up with John Griffiths, Denise, and a couple of other folks. John John, do you remember what the date is? Where we're doing the town hall pre-planning.
Setting
So-
the goal.
Yeah, we're setting the goal for the town hall on diversity and inclusion. So the 3 board members that are stepping onto that committee, can someone, do you remember what day it is, John?
Yes, it's Friday, July 17th at 9 a.m.
So if one of the 3 of you can decide,
I could do that meeting.
thanks. Oh, perfect, Josh. And Josh, I think you were on it with me as the goals anyway, to set the goal for the,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it
so.
was.
yeah, so it works perfect. Yeah, so you guys can set the goal for the goals that the town hall will address.
Friday, this is Friday I have it on my calendar as at 7 a.m. Is that right?
Well, 7 a.m. where you're at, baby.
Okay, 9 a.m. Okay, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Got
but
it.
Josh, make sure that when you put it on your calendar and you get back east, it doesn't change the,
No,
you think
it-
you're showing up at 11.
It's actually already showing on my calendar at 7 a.m., which means that it's actually it's at 9
Okay.
a.m.
I was just say, don't change it.
What I am going to do is I'm going to add a reminder to myself so that I actually remember that the meeting is then.
Good thinking.
All right. So we've got our board committees squared away, and we did that in pretty good time. We have a couple of district committee liaisons outstanding. So if I can just kind of run through, we do have a liaison for bike pedestrian. That's Josh. We'll continue with that. Building planning councils. Beth, if you would like to do CET. Josh, no, Neil's
No.
taking on the
school.
high school. And I would actually really like to take on PVC since it'll be Owen's first year there. So I will go with that. Culture of respect. So Beth, I know that was an interest of yours, but if you're doing CET, Building Planning Council, I don't want to overload you with things. Is there anyone else who would like to do culture of respect? I've done it this past year. I'm happy to step back if someone else would like to join that.
I'm interested.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic group, and I think
Yeah,
they're
the
gonna be
one,
doing a lot
the
of good
one
stuff this
question
year.
for you, Andrea, is I presume that is in after school, 3:30 to 5 something.
Right, so I'll just like take one of them or maybe 2, but no more than that. Yeah.
And there are always like, if people, you know, if we need to sub in sometimes, right? I think most of us haven't had an issue with that. Like, I can't make this one. Could someone else, could we have a backup or someone who could fill in as well? The sustainability committee,
I could be on that one. That's interesting.
Brian?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Okay. Health and safety committee.
I'm on it.
Perfect.
That was
Josh.
you, Josh?
Yep.
All right. Lunch committee, Denise, do you foresee that we will continue to need that for at least part of the year in this coming year? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, and I would say partially due to COVID-19 and the reentry issues that we may face with that.
Right. I'm happy to remain on that unless someone else would like to step in there.
Sarah, I can step in there, or we can tag team if you prefer. I'm just worried that you might have quite a bit on your plate. Usually the board officer is not on so many committees.
I know. Listen, I
And you
stepped
have
back.
2 standing committees.
I do have 2 standing committees, but so yeah, I'm happy to tag team that with you.
Okay.
Re-entry task force, since we just assigned those in June, we will maintain those.
And that is Iris, me, and
Andrea.
Andrea.
Yes. And so then the steering committee, what we did last year, given that that was new, was that because it comprises the sustainability, culture of respect, health and safety, Andrea served as the rep there because she was on the sustainability committee. So if we wanted to continue following that, we would just select one of the representatives from one of those committees to also serve on the steering committee, if that works.
Makes sense.
Meaning either Brian or Josh or.
Either Brian or Josh or
Maybe
Beth,
someone,
right? Or no, yeah, Andrea, who's on Culture of Respect.
right.
I'm sorry, which one are we talking about now?
The steering committee?
The steering
The
committee to
health,
which health
safety,
and
wellness.
safety.
I
Yes.
can't
Oh,
remember the
All
rest of the words.
committees, yes, all the committees feed into the steering committee.
Oh, okay. I forgot that we had reorganized this.
Do we need to limit it to one board member, or I mean, honestly, what happened is Carrie, the head of each group asks, members to be on it. So she asked me to do it. But I don't know what the guidelines are in terms of board members, if it has to be from there or from.
It does not have
Debbie,
to
do you have a
be
preference?
from a liaison, right? Each committee chooses a liaison to serve on the steering committee. The board member can be the liaison, or the board member can be, just a board member liaising.
Okay.
I mean, it's a great committee.
Well, I can try that one.
Brian?
Okay.
Really
Sure.
good.
I like to steer.
All right. And then, so Student Faculty Congress, that will be Josh. And
Yep.
West Putt Liaison will be Neil.
Right?
I
And
have
you
Beth-
can
I
also,
have Beth too as Student Faculty Congress.
Oh, yes. Beth, you, though, were preferring a building planning council to a student faculty congress?
right, because student
You're-
faculty
you're
congress
muted,
is
Beth.
8:00 in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. I'd prefer CET building planning.
okay. So
Perfect.
we'll take her off. All right.
All right.
So who's
So-
on PVC Building Planning Council?
That's me.
Sarah.
Oh, okay.
And I know we had listed BOCES. There really hasn't been a whole lot, but I will be the person who can interface with BOCES to the extent there is anything that comes up.
And I,
Thank you.
and I can tag team with you, Neil.
Sure.
Yeah, it's usually good to have a couple because of those evening meetings.
Great. All right. So, guys, I think we did it, and we did it
Except
within
for one
time.
thing.
Yes.
You had mentioned coalition, right? And David said that there's still a little bit of work that's being done. There's a little more money that Lori Dean
There's
maybe.
still some funds left. But
Right.
will we need a board liaison for that, Deb?
I can touch base with Lori Dean to see the status of where we are with the coalition, if you'd like, and get back to you.
Okay.
I think,
Okay.
to be honest, am I right about this? I feel like the meetings were not convenient for any board member. So the liaisons just basically were on the email chain to keep track of what was going on and ask questions. But I don't know if we actually, did any board member attend the meetings last year?
I
I
do
don't
not.
think so. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I think I was the rep and I don't recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that, thank you, everyone. Thanks for everybody thinking those through. Got through that very well. All right, so now we will move on to the consent agenda for the reorganization meeting. Recommended action that the Board of Education approve all items under the consent agenda for the reorganization meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Can you give me just 1 minute?
Certainly.
I gotta open up my agenda. Never mind.
All good? All right, anyone?
Have questions?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose?
Aye.
You're opposed, Beth, or
No, I.
Okay. Abstain. Motion carries then. Great. All right. And now we will move on to, now we are moving into our regular meeting. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, which is nice. So first up in the regular meeting will be our hearing of the public. And I did get a letter from a community member that I will read for hearing of the public. So we had a letter in from Adam Rieger, who lives in the Village. And the letter said that I believe this New York Times article that he attached, and that the article was titled, "In the COVID-19 economy, you can have a kid or a job. You can't have both." It was an op-ed piece in the New York Times this past week. I believe this New York Times article eloquently summarizes some of the big concerns working parents face with the decisions around school reopening. If it's possible for me to request it to be submitted for consideration in the reentry committee, that would be appreciated. One point it does not directly address is that with the various phases of reopening, the requirements of the vast majority of places of work, restaurants, theaters, etc., as exceptions, are vastly easier to open and get going than areas associated with children, school, aftercare, etc. This mismatch not only forces working parents to make decisions about leaving the workforce, but it will also lead to some making less than safe decisions on childcare that will expose those kids to greater risk, and therefore the school as a whole on the days they do attend. I strongly believe that if the states shut down most workplaces, then yes, school needs to be virtual. But if most workplaces can open, then school has to match that. If it does not, then we risk spreading the infection more than if the kids are there. So that was Adam's letter into the community, and I sent the article around to all of you and to administration as well. Okay. And now we will move on to the superintendent's report, and I will turn it over to Dr. O'Connell. You are on mute, Deb.
Off to a good start. My family only wishes they could do that. Well, welcome and good evening, everyone, and welcome, Beth, to the board. Congratulations to Sarah and Brian, and thank you, Andrea, for your service as vice president. Again, I don't even know how you can clock the hours that the board officers spend with administration. So thank you. Now, Brian, I didn't mean to scare you away by saying that as I see you darting out of the room. But I like to start with a quote. And now we welcome the new year full of things that have never been. So I'm very excited for our new year. And again, it does come with perhaps some challenges, perhaps some new opportunities. And I just look forward to working closely with our Board of Education, our community, our faculty and staff, and most importantly, our students. So I have a few items on my agenda to address today, and I'll call upon my assistant superintendents as well. As with our communication plan with our school reentry task force, I will be sharing with each meeting in my superintendent's report information relative to the task force work and our reentry. Our task force worked diligently through June, really starting in May, and then in June, we are going to reconvene next week. As we've mentioned, I'm sure as you've read, the governor has not come out yet with anything in terms of an executive order relative to school reopenings. And also the New York State Education Department has finished their regional meetings, and we anticipate hearing something from out of that office after July 13th. So right now, we don't have anything in terms of an executive order or anything out of New York State Ed. Nonetheless, we are going to reconvene as a task force next week. And the week after that, we've scheduled 2 meetings. As I know the public has been following, Our task force has several key focus areas, just to reiterate in case somebody is joining in for the first time. We have health and safety, 2 areas there, one of the physical plant and the other student and staff protocols. Under teaching and learning, that focus area, we have several areas: assessment of the learning plan, instructional program, social and emotional needs, and sports and extracurricular. The other focus areas, key focus areas, were staff training and then transportation of students. So we're one large task force, and then we have subgroups within that task force that have different focus areas, but we communicate as one task force. And one of our previous communications, we basically looked at 3 possible scenarios for September. One where there's a reopening of school, 100% in-person learning with no physical distancing requirements or other mitigation factors. That would be the beautiful scenario. However, the way in which we're hearing from various states or different communications, we need to be also examining other scenarios, such as a hybrid in-person / remote type of scenario, which considers physical distancing. Also a third scenario, which might be a total e-learning, remote learning without in-person. So the task force is examining different scenarios, what's involved in that. And I thank our community member for sending us that article. We'll be certain to include that article and send it off to our task force members. We do this often with good pieces we see or hear about, we share with our task force members. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. As you can imagine, we're spending a lot of time as a task force looking at the different scenarios and the implications of each. As the board knows, we've launched 2 surveys. We're putting the final touches on creating the executive summaries of those surveys, and we thank the community for taking part in that. That information will be given to the task force. That information will also be shared with the board, as well as the public. We'll be putting it on our website. We have a landing page dedicated to school reopening, reentry, and we're housing all of our information there. So again, thank you. Those were 2 of our internal surveys that were developed by the task force based on their conversations. And when they got to a point and said, wouldn't it be nice if we just had some feedback in this area? That is basically how we determined what kinds of information we were looking at in terms of our internal surveys. But you may have noted this week, we did launch a K-12 alert, which talked about a regional survey. It's a very short survey, but we're using a tool called Thought Exchange. Croton Harmon has joined the region on participating in this survey with Thought Exchange, and 12 other districts. So the 12 other districts were listed in the K-12 alert. And I'm very excited to see what that information, what kind of information we could glean from that. It's, as I said, a regional survey, and I am one of the members of the team that will look at the results that emerge from that. The task force wanted to also have regional information. What are some of the thinking from the region? With that said, looking forward to seeing what those results are. So next week, I believe it's Wednesday, the task force is meeting, and the following week after that, it's the Tuesday that we're meeting. It is our hope that in the meanwhile, we continue our conversations, that also some guidance will be coming out. So that's my school reentry task force update. The next item I have on my list today, I'm going to ask John Griffiths if he would share a little bit about the NYU Metropolitan Center for Research on Equality and the Transformation of Schools. And I'm very excited about our work in this area. So John, would you share?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. O'Connell, and good evening, board members. Yes, the Metropolitan Center for Research on Equity and the Transformation of Schools, thank goodness, is shortened. Most people using the vernacular, the NYU Metro Center. It is a group of researchers out of NYU Steinhardt School of Education, and their executive director, Westchester resident, Natalie Zwerger, is somebody that I had the opportunity to see on numerous occasions, as a Dr. O'Connell, and really, really impressed us on how she really started to engage administrators and other school officials in the area of equity, diversity, inclusivity. And she's been doing really wonderful work with her colleagues with other school districts. So we began the process of really inquiring what kind of work they could do to benefit the Croton-Harmon schools. As a research organization, they separate the areas of research they do in terms of equity in education in terms of 9 discrete areas. That of student performance, teacher capacity, parent engagement and empowerment, immigrant transitional education, cultural and linguistic diversity, gender identity constructs, academic abilities and engagement, teacher and student career pathways, and community stakeholder models. They do not enter our district with any cookie cutter approach on how to work with us. They very, very much are interested in going through a period of consultation, evaluation of structures that we have in place before they start to make reviews and recommendations on things from community engagement to building task force to professional development and teacher education. We do have a date on our calendar where Natalie Zwerger will begin this process with the district on August 5th with the administrative team. I did mention to Natalie Zwerger, Dr. Zwerger, and she's very, very excited to hear that as the Board of Education, the work that she is doing is aligned with the goals of you as a board, and is very, very exciting and willing to work with the board in terms of, and within the constructs of you as a governing body to really consider how she might support and help unfold the goals of the Board of Education as well.
John, I have one quick question, just because we've been hearing from the public. Is there going to be any examination of curriculum?
Yes, definitely. That's definitely part of the work. When it actually, makes sense to enter the work is not something that's prescribed, because it's very, very much a part of assessing the culture and readiness. But certainly, I think we would all say that in the age that we're living in, it is something that is prioritized and hopefully something we would move towards in the short term.
John, also, I have a question related to that. So is the scope of the work intended to be, how long before we can start to see some of the thought leadership that would result from this collaboration impact curriculum, flowing back to like our professional development plans, even edification for the board? So is this like a year-long scope, or is this, a couple months?
And so, thank you. That's an excellent question, and I appreciate it. The work that we have basically engaged in will be an annual process. Certainly, the districts that have engaged with them, having chosen to go on to subsequent years. But certainly, from what I have heard from my colleagues, it has been within the scope of the first year that they've really started to do substantive work in the area that has shown positive results.
Right. So theoretically, within a year, we could see the input, the output of this collaboration flow into professional development for our teaching staff, curriculum changes, enhancements that would reflect some of the areas of need in our community.
I'm anticipating that the work will be beginning within the course of the school year. So yes, I would say yes, we would see the beginning of this work starting to take place within 2020, 2021.
And I think Natalie is also going to have the opportunity to reflect on the work we've done already as a faculty. We've had several consultants work with us over time. I'm thinking of Devin Thornburg's work. I know Karen is on this call, I believe, as well, this Zoom meeting. And she worked very closely with bringing Devin Thornburg and his work in, where we looked at microaggressions and cultural competencies. And I think what was going to be very exciting about the work Natalie is going to be doing with us is really helping us pull that all together. You know, CHHS had great faculty presentations. We've had GLSEN come in and work with our understanding of LGBTQ. How do we pull it all together? So these pieces of great opportunities we've had as a district. So that's another thing I'm hoping that Natalie's work with our district is going to be able to further enhance what we've already been engaged in. How do we strengthen it? How do we, you know, make them seem less episodic and more of a woven thread in our work? So I'm really very excited. When we first met Natalie, I was hoping she wasn't going to be too stretched too thinly, that she wouldn't be able to fit us in. So I'm very excited. Thank you, John, for that leadership in getting her to be able to work with our district.
And I'm sorry, just one last question. Is the scope of the work going to encompass anyone who relates to a student, i.e. bus drivers, lunch aides, custodial staff, anyone who has impact to a student, or is it limited only to administrators and educators?
No, the work is definitely systemic.
Okay, great.
I can't say what our timeline would be, and if that is, and to what degree there's an intensity of work throughout the system within the first year.
Mm-hmm.
I would really just infer from the multi-year work that other districts are doing that that there is a timeline, and I'm really not sure exactly how that will play out. But I do know that the intention of the work is to be systemic.
Great.
John and
Yes.
Debbie, I have a quick question. So just in terms of wrapping my brain around what they're going to do at New York NYU Metro Center. So it's sort of like when we had the Culture of Respect come in and they do it like an audit of your systems. They'll say, this is where you are, this is your desired state, and these are what you need to do to get to that state, or is it a little different?
I believe that's part of it. I think a lot of it, you know, because of the sensitivity and the difficulty of this work, I think that they really work typically within a smaller group of where there's a readiness, and start to really build understanding and conversations within a core group, and then really begin to think about how to learn from that core group and how to then move out from that epicenter to the larger culture. So that's been my understanding of their methodology. But once again, Iris, I think it really is about them spending time within the culture of our district to really learn and then discuss with us the best approach moving forward.
I think that was one of the attractive pieces to it. It wasn't cookie cutter. And to your point, John, and through that assessment of what Natalie will see when she's with us and hears about, you know, the various pieces of Croton Harmon, what she comes up with as our next steps too.
And then just one last thing, because for me, it's about the children, right? It's always should be for me about the kids. So, and being around kids these last couple of months, and just here, will she be working with, or is there any indication that they look at how the children, how the students interact and the behaviors and any parent workshops. Because a lot of, I mean, the system is one thing, right? That's one thing that can be fixed, but the way the kids interact with one another is, to me, more lasting.
Yeah. And I would say that the work has to go there. I mean, I think that that's an important part of the work. I think once again, I don't know exactly, to say that that happens in April of 2021 is not something we can forecast. But I think that what starts to happen is through conversations with Dr. Zwerger, we start to really sort of prioritize focus. So I think if we say one of the priorities really are, within this cohort, the way students are treating with each other, I think she would be, okay, let's talk about that. Let's see how we could get a lens in on that. Let's see how we could get a bigger understanding of the nature of the culture and what might be propagating that, so that we could think of interventions that really start to educate students on alternate ways of approaching each other. So I think there's a tremendous interest in this topic, rightly so. I'm very, very happy that we started these conversations months and months ago, before the climate within our country is where it is now, so that we really could take opportunity of this relationship. I don't know what it would be like if we tried to really engage a conversation with the NYU Metro Center, in the present tense, and just start a relationship. What I do know is that I'll be very, very interested to learn more on August 5th. And certainly if it's a topic of interest, we could, Dr. O'Connell, I could really bring back our learnings from that first meeting and really further update you on exactly, how that went.
That would be appreciated.
Yes, very much so. Seconded.
And John, I just want to say, the fact that I was in a meeting with you it was the diversity and I don't know, the DI group. That's not the DI group that the village has. And you were, and you were already talking and making this connection back, I think it was last September. And it really is going to bear fruit. And the one thing that you really brought up in that meeting that I think is so important for our district is that you really have to go deep and spend the time. There aren't any quick fixes. And the fact that it's going to be so individualized and so thoughtful, I'm really looking forward to this. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, and I want to echo, I would rather we take however long it takes than rush just to say we did it. So I'm supportive of helping wherever we can and however we can. I don't want to just rush through it. That serves no purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And it might be another opportunity. We're always looking for opportunities to partner with the village. We've set that relationship up already. And if that's still an existing committee for the village, it might be a great opportunity for us to partner again with, at some point, as we've done, like with Culture of Respect and et cetera. So I can connect my next statement directly to the NYU Metro Center, because my next topic is the Regional Equity and Diversity Coalition and Steering Committee for Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES. So as you can imagine, the conversations that are ongoing with superintendents, we reached out to BOCES to say we want to form a coalition. And therefore we have, of course, with every coalition, a steering committee of such. So I've joined my colleagues from the region in forming the Regional Equity and Diversity Coalition, and I'm very happy that I can serve on the steering committee. We've met twice already, and just to share our mission, the Equity and Diversity Regional Coalition will promote equity and celebrate diversity and to provide learning opportunities for all stakeholders to ensure anti-bias and anti-racist communities. And our vision and value statement is as follows. As a regional equity and diversity coalition, We recognize the importance of each child and the reliance upon our educational institutions to ensure social justice. As a result, we will ensure that each student feels that he, she, or they is a valued member of our school community. We will collaborate across districts to leverage resources for all, cultivate and raise student voice, create policy structures and curriculum to support our mission, and acknowledge the emotions of all members of our school community. And I'm really excited to be able to serve on that, to see how the strength of our collective, can result in, to your point, Iris, not just check the box and we've done this, but something that is deep and rich. And how can we leverage the strength of other districts in this important work? Can we leverage joining districts together? I remember one of the statements the students made when I met with them a few weeks ago was about, how we have sister schools in France and we have a sister school in Spain. Could we have a sister school that's closer, looking at, again, leveraging the strength of each other and to build each other up. So I'm looking forward to really deepening the work in the region, because it will also deepen the work with the district initiatives that we have ongoing. So keeping with a certain theme is the culture of respect. And so that's my next topic. And I wanted to chunk those three pieces together. We reconvened our Culture of Respect Task Force a few weeks ago, and we opened the meeting by reviewing our mission statement and the charge of our committee. And we did so purposefully because, as the name implies, it is about a culture of respect. And so as a task force, we wanted to look at our mission. And our mission does talk specifically about prevention of sexual assault, bullying, and harassment. And we just wanted to make sure we felt it as, district administrators that, given what's going on in our society, in our world, currently, is there room to broaden our work with the culture of respect? We felt it was like a perfect fit, but we didn't want to just assume. So we reconvened the task force and facilitated discussion about our role. And we asked two questions. What is our role in this in the district and in the community? And how do we broaden our scope to create a strong, all-encompassing culture of respect? And the consensus of the group was definitely to broaden the scope of our work to encompass the issues of race and bigotry. And we clearly saw the connection between the efforts to create an environment in our schools and community free of sexual violence, of course, but also ready to combat hatred and racism. So I think our Culture of Respect Task Force for 2021 school year is poised to wrap our work around this. And I'm really hoping that between the work of the NYU Metro Center, the work of the Regional Equity Diversity Coalition in the region, as well as our Culture of Respect, that we keep our focus on these very, very important pieces. And I'm really hoping that, and really pumped that the three can really show great results moving forward. I'm going to pause there for a second because those were three pretty meaty items along with the reentry task force. I'm going to change gears slightly now to summer programs and summer construction, but just to pause for a second in case you had any questions.
I would just say, I just would like to make a statement. If anybody wants to join me on the culture of respect, now that it's even been broader, I think we could, there's always room for 2 board members on that committee. So just putting that out there.
Okay.
I would like to join if they expanded to include that. I mean, and did someone else, Brian, were you getting ready to say something? No, okay. Yeah, I would gladly if
Thank
I
you.
can make it. I know you guys normally meet during the day, which makes it sometimes difficult.
Yeah, we usually right after school,
Yeah.
because we try to accommodate students. Now, sometimes I will say the students, they sometimes come to our Culture of Respect task force meetings. Sometimes they'll work with Mrs. Tracy through their student activism group, and then they report out what they did at their student activism group at our Culture of Respect task force. So they've used both avenues. Sometimes they're present and sometimes they are not. So I'm going to transition to just to give a brief update on our summer programs. I know Karen Gatto is, I think she was with us. Did I lose
She
her?
was with us. I think she just popped off.
Oh, for God's sakes. I think she has the best timing for jumping right off.
I can
So-
cover for her.
Jump in, Dr.
So
O'Connell.
John, I'm going to throw it to you then, if you give us an update on summer programs.
It would be my pleasure. So we are a 12-month operation. We do have students who with individual education plans who are part of our ESY Extended School Year program. That did start last week on July 1st. This is its first full week of operation. We do have about 6 students from CET attending ESY virtually out of 13 that were invited. In addition to those 6, we do have 4 special class students that are attending live and face-to-face instruction every day. At PVC, we did send out 27 invitations and have 21 participants. And at the high school, there were 6 that qualified for ESY and 3 are attending. They are, as I said, for the most part, receiving their services virtually this summer, with the exception of CET special class. We do have 12 staff members covering a wide range of services, from special class teachers to specialized math and reading, to OT, speech and language, physical therapy, and behavioral consultations. In addition to our ESY program, we also are running our PVC summer learning camps. Every summer, those academic summer camps are provided to students. Today is the second day of the ELA writing camp that's being run by Kara Herbert and Matthew Zinman. Upcoming throughout the summer, we will move on to a creative writing camp, 2 sessions of a math skills camp, a math think camp, a math enrichment camp, and a 10-day Regents science prep course. Each one of those are at capacity with between 20 and 23 enrolled for those online opportunities.
John, quick question. Are those, this is just a new board member question, are those open to everybody, the camps portion, or are those specifically for certain students?
So some are targeted, yet, you know, as an interest is expressed, I know that Mr. Plotkin does his best to accommodate wherever there's interest.
Okay, specific for the camps. And then there are no CET camps.
That's correct.
Okay, and is that just because of resources, or this is a pilot program and we're testing out to see if this is something that could be available to the other buildings, the grade levels?
The history has been the summer programs existing within the middle school structure.
Okay.
I do know that there are those opportunities for people as they're transitioning into the middle school. But there has not been the similar kind of summer opportunities. Traditionally, we do run a summer opportunities for CET students in the form of hosting camp opportunities, but they have not been academic opportunities.
They haven't been academic. Okay, great.
No.
Thank you.
And if I could have Denise give us a summer construction update.
Good evening.
So our unoccupied buildings have certainly aided in our construction progress. As you know, we are in our third and final year of our capital project, and progress is well underway. We are at the high school, we're doing some casework in the art rooms, upgrading the library, bathroom renovations, as well as some general abatement. At PVC, we're installing a guardrail in front of the windows at the library for safety purposes, fire dampeners. We're working in the gym, also adding some path lighting by the tennis courts, as well as some work in the crawl space and on our piping. At CET, we are doing some exterior masonry repairs. We have replaced the floor in the main corridor, and other HVAC work and casework as well. And then district-wide, we're replacing doors and doing overall HVAC work. So I just want to commend our construction management firm, Barone Construction, our architect, KSQ, and of course, our director of facilities, Paul Gibbons. It has been a very, very challenging time amidst the COVID environment. And we are getting new regulations daily that change all operations, certainly the screening and social distancing requirements require that everyone is escorted and certain areas are cleaned promptly afterwards. So they have just done an incredible job. And now we're, beginning the second phase of that work. And then thereafter, we will begin preparing our buildings for hopefully a September return.
Denise, I have a quick question. Can you explain why the asbestos removal didn't go forward with CET and at PVC? Was it around these new restrictions with COVID, or was it?
No, actually, we had discovered some unanticipated extensive abatement at the high school that required a considerable change order. So as when we have change orders, we're always looking for ways to compensate. As we end this project, we are very tight on our financial schedule. So they reevaluated some of the items that were in our bid, some of which were actually contingent items. So what they did was they did a reevaluation. Our owner, our architect and construction manager, and Quest, which is our abatement consultant, and they looked at other areas that could possibly, though we had hoped to do some work there was no disturbance, everything was intact, and there was no safety or otherwise concern. So we chose to hold off on those areas. They are not at all a safety risk. It was just a matter of a preference we wanted to move forward with, but at this late in the phase of the project and being so tight financially, that we chose to hold off on that.
Okay, great. Thanks for reiterating the safety aspect of it.
Sure. And that concludes my report.
So that was a lengthy superintendent report, but while we had you all here and sitting ducks here, we figured let's give you a piece of everything that's going on. So thank you so much.
Thank you. No, that was a very, very good overview of all of the many things we've got going on. Summer might be summer vacation for the kids, but it's certainly not a slow time for our administrators and staff. So we thank you for that very robust update.
Denise, I have a quick question. Sarah, before we move on, I have a question for Denise. Denise, you said this was our third and final year of what?
The 2016 bond authorization.
Okay.
So again, it was initially 4 years, but we compressed the schedule for financial purposes and decreased the timeline from 4 years to 3 years. So this is the final year of that capital bond authorization.
Oh, okay, I was thinking you were referring to the building condition survey, and I'm like, so I just wanted to make a clarification. Thank you. That'll come up in about 3 years. Our
The
next building condition
survey?
survey.
No, that will come up this year.
Yes.
Oh, I thought they extended it
Well,
for.
actually, yes, we have an upgrade, but no decision has been made on that. They're talking about the visual inspection in place of the building condition survey. Though because we are 5 years out, we will probably do a modified building condition survey at the least.
Okay, so I'll put that on our list. Thank
Because
you.
waiting, Iris, was just the way the state changed we were ready and up for it, and then
Right.
changed the dates. So we really feel we need to have, even if it's our own version of that, in order to make good, sound decisions moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, or we'll move on to ongoing business? All right, so moving on to ongoing business. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the amended 2020-2021 Board of Education meetings calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Can you just explain what's changed?
Absolutely. So what we've changed here is the July work session. The original work session date was July 23rd, and we are moving that to July 14th to coincide with our board retreat. As we have done in our July work sessions in the past, we will use that work session as our retreat time. So that is the change there.
And just so for completeness, I had started to mention the fact that I was since we're talking about the calendar and moving the date of the 14th, I was wondering, should we move the retreat back an additional week? But there are all kinds of problems with moving it. So I won't be proposing that we move it from the 14th. So we won't need to change the calendar again.
Great. All right, any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, we'll now move on to 6.2. Recommended action. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the 2020-2021 building use waiver fee for Croton Academy of the Arts, and be it further resolved that the use of the district's facilities are subject to any and all federal, state, and/or local laws and/or regulations related to the reopening of schools and the use and/or reopening of school facilities during the COVID-19 pandemic, which may result in the denial, rescission, and/or modification of any facilities use requests.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain as well. Motion carries.
Wait, were there 2 abstentions?
There were 2 abstentions, Andrea and I. Okay. All right. 6.03, recommended action. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the 2020-2021 building use waiver fee for the Girl Scouts of America Croton troops, and be it further resolved that the use of the district's facilities are subject to any and all federal, state, and/or local laws and/or regulations related to the reopening of schools and the use and/or reopening of school facilities during the COVID-19 pandemic, which may result in the denial, rescission, and/or modification of any facilities use requests.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
I just want to call the board's attention to the fact that I will be opposing this building use waiver and the next one for the same reason that I have over the past several years, which is that both the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts continue to have items in their oath for participants that require acknowledgement of a deity. And I just don't think that's appropriate for something that is done inside of the schools. Acknowledgement of an external power outside of the human being who is making the oath is religion, and I just can't see voting for such a waiver.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
1.
2.
Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to 6.4. Recommended action. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the 2020-2021 building use waiver fee for the Boy Scouts of America Croton units, and be it further resolved that the use of the district's facilities are subject to any and all federal, state, and or local laws and or regulations related to the reopening of schools and the use and or reopening of school facilities during the COVID-19 pandemic, which may result in the denial, rescission, and or modification of any facilities use requests.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Just a minute.
And Beth as well. Abstain? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Now we will move on to 6.5. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the bond resolution as presented, and this is the transportation bond.
So moved.
On the
Second.
question, oh, did I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. On the question?
So this is the, so make sure I totally understand this, and also that the public totally understands. This is the resolution to actually go ahead and issue the bond that was approved by the public in the recent school election, correct?
Correct. It's formality.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, thank you. We will now move on to donations. Recommended action that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation of $250 from Agnes Zaharias as a contribution to the Christos Zaharias Scholarship Fund at the Croton Harmon High School.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
One question, which is, I know we're accepting this now. Because I just don't remember on the list, is this an award or a scholarship that was provided at the senior award ceremony a week and a half ago? Or is this a different award?
I
I'm
believe
not certain,
so.
Neil.
I'm not certain, but I believe so, yes.
You believe it is one that has already been awarded to a student? Okay.
I'll be honest, Neil, I don't recall hearing that.
I don't either, Iris. That's why I was thinking of listening through the virtual event.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there is a scholarship that has not been awarded, but this is a scholarship for which funding will be provided for next year, that's also fine. I just was wondering.
We'll
I
get
will
that
confirm
information.
that and get back to the board on that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carries. All right. Thank you very much. We always like to thank our donors for thinking of our school district and supporting our schools. We very much appreciate it. We will now move on to item number 8, which is instructional personnel, and 8.1. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the instructional personnel appointment of James Casey, special education teacher at the Carrie E. Tompkins Elementary School as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. 8.2, recommended action that the Board of Education approves the part-time instructional personnel appointments for the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. And now we're on to 8.3, recommended action that the Board of Education approves the appointment of Dr. Deborah O'Connell as Superintendent of Schools for the Croton Harmon School District as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, and we are now on to the consent agenda portion of the meeting. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves all items under the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
I would just like to point out, Sarah, that item number 9.18, the budget increase, there was a slight change from our originally produced board report. So every year our budget increases by any amounts that were utilized through our reserve funds. So we had originally had a figure of $1,559,102, and that number has since been changed to the $1,561,088. We, in our last check run, had dispersed some additional money related to the phone upgrade at PVC and CET in the high school. So that number has changed slightly. And just to explain, this year through our capital reserve fund, we did all of the work at the CET servery and the PVC cafeteria, as well as the installation of phones into all of our classrooms in each of our buildings. So this monetary amount reflects that work.
Thank you very much for the update.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right. We are now moving into the closing of the meeting, in which we will start off with board reports. Board development, I don't know if you had additional items regarding the retreat to report out?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So as everyone knows, we will be coming together. We will finalize it. We meet one last time, Andrea and myself, and I guess, Brian, you'll be joining us, hopefully, on Friday morning. I'll send you the invite. We're going to, no, actually, Sarah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's me, actually. Brian's got communications.
Yeah, Brian's on communications. We're going to meet, and we'll send out a final notice so that everyone knows. Lynn has put together a fantastic agenda for us. The purpose of the retreat is new beginnings as we welcome new board members. It's also going to be a new way of education being provided in the district. So it's really, theme is going to be about new, looking at things in a new way. One of the things I would like board members to think about, and this is with email, what are our protocols and our procedures? And I would like to get clarity and confirmation we would like to get clarity and confirmation from the board. We've noticed sometimes, like within the past 2 weeks, there's been some email exchanges that go back and forth a little, or questions are being asked in a way where the chain of command is not clear. clearly set forth. So we want to, I think, reiterate our, like we do the mission and vision, what are our protocols? And so we all start the year off on the same page. So just think about the protocols, and we'll touch base with them briefly during the retreat. If it is virtual, you don't have to worry about food. You can get it out of your refrigerator. But if it's not, if it's in person,
you're not going to send me my dinner?
I was in charge of the food too. You're not going to miss anything. But the one thing is, though, there will be like a dinner part of, so you probably want to have some snacks or something that we're going to break bread.
Not to worry.
Send over some Indian.
That's right.
Well, Tracy's really good at getting those, right? So we'll see. But yeah, there will be a dinner break inserted into the agenda as well. So that, I think, is really, we're going to look at effective board meetings, and as always, they have some really fun activities for us to engage in so that we can deep dive.
Right, for team building and just to get to know everybody a little bit better, and just how we can really work most effectively with each other.
Yeah.
And Andrea and Iris, this is for the meeting next week, correct? Just yeah, this is next week's meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the meeting on the 14th.
Yes.
So just a reminder,
Correct.
I'm not going to be back yet.
Yes, you're joining us virtually, you said.
I will join you virtually. Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes,
I
that's
will
why I was
also,
thinking
Me
of
too.
moving it, but it didn't work.
yeah, and I will also in likelihood be joining virtually just because of I'm high risk for COVID, and a daughter who is high risk for COVID as well. So
Yes. Yeah, no, that's
So is it going to be that those who did not already say they are not going to be there actually, that is Josh, Beth, and Brian, the remainder of the participants will be gathering or will also?
That's up in the air. That's actually
that's up in the air.
Okay.
Most
because-
likely it's going to be virtual because there's so many parts that are not able to join in person that, we want to have a meaningful experience so everyone can get involved. So
Okay.
most likely it will be virtual, but we do want to check in one more time with BOCES.
And the activities were planned with an eye to the fact that we might have to pivot to virtual at the last minute. So it's going to be a pretty seamless transition to virtual for BOCES or BOCES friends.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
great.
We'll look forward for the finalization details. Looking forward to it.
Brian, you will be at the retreat. You can't do live, yes?
Yes, I will attend.
Right.
All right, great. So moving on to next board report, which is communications. Oh, sorry, Andrea.
Just clarify one thing. Iris, what time? Can you tell everybody what time we're starting? Just because I know
6
it's
p.m.
6 p.m.
Right now we have it set to go from 6 to 9 p.m. It's 3 hours. It's 3 hours of hard work. We didn't think starting at 7 to 10 would be wise because around 9 o'clock everyone would start getting punchy. So
Except Neil.
But you-
except
Good
me.
you
And
definitely
we don't know Beth. Beth may be a night owl, but
I am a huge night owl. Yeah, but it's terrible in the school year. Night owls suffer in the school year. Yeah, so yeah.
yeah. So usually the learning curve dips quickly at 9 o'clock, so we didn't want to go beyond 9 for that purpose.
I'll have a lot of chocolate on hand.
Right. Yeah.
Not a bad plan for all of us. All
I
right.
miss your cookies, Sarah.
Now we'll move on to communications, which is sticking with you, Iris. So back to you again.
So I will be passing the baton on this. What communications, at our last meeting, we've been discussing two main topics were at the last meeting. The one was the town hall that we would like to, I'm calling it a town hall, but it might not actually be a town hall. So please don't get confused by the terminology. We want to have some sort of community meeting on the issues of race and diversity. but we don't know yet exactly what that's going to look like. So Josh and John and the rest of the communications committee will be taking on that. We started looking at the format for the meeting. So that's really where we are with, we're in the planning stage for that community meeting. The other thing we discussed is some of the, yes, Andrea?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say there may be an opportunity to sort of dovetail with the, with the culture of respect. Might be an opportunity, to sort of, I mean, we'll see how that goes, but there may be some issues that we can find out what are some of the, pertinent issues that the community is interested in right through that committee, because it involves students and parents and community members. So there might be an opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, Andrea. Mm-hmm.
Good point. And then we've been, just discussing some other communications, and there are some, I wanted to pass the baton as well with the communications committee. We do need to revisit and look at the Black Cow. That was something, I will actually send the 3 board members a list of issues that we need to, that we were in the process of working on, so that there's continuity. But remember, the Black Cow is something that we constantly said we need to look through, as well as board evaluations, self-evaluation of our board.
Yes. And Josh will be there as well for continuity with Brian and Beth. So you guys won't be totally on your own. And feel free to, of course, reach out to Iris or I for things that were on topic or discussed last year that we could provide any insight or background on. All right. Yeah. I don't think we've had any other boards, any other board committees that have met. Neil, has policy met?
Policy has not met, and what we will do in the near future is, now that I know it's Iris and Andrea's, find some times, find some dates, and then be able to bring administrators together. The portion of our ongoing review of policies based on the NYSSBA audit is now, well, we really didn't get through the instructional and student area, and we were going to go on the student area, the 5,000s, and we were going to then hit the 6,000 and 7,000, which will require Denise's participation because that's her areas of her responsibility. But we'll see and try to figure out when people are available and try to do it. I think, well, I'm going to try to do something well before mid-August as a first meeting, because I know it's always going to be very busy this summer, but as you get closer to the end of August, it will be even more busy for administration.
Yeah, and if there are any policies that are impacted by the e-learning, that's something we should start maybe.
Well, we've already dealt with that insofar as we made changes based on what had been recommended by NYSSBA in that area. But if there are others, we will we'll kind of put them at the top of the pile.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, that would then conclude our board reports. Like I said earlier, yep.
Can I just jump back to communications for one moment?
Certainly.
I had written myself a note. Communications, I need you to get in touch with Greg Cavalieri so that you have the Ask the BOE password, so that when members of the community send in questions on the Ask the BOE, it comes to you. And once you've determined who's going to be your chair, so that you can start filtering and answering those questions. So yeah, reach out to Greg as soon as possible so that you can have that.
I actually may have an email from Greg that gives the instructions on how to get access to that. So if I will look through my email tonight. If I have that, I will send that to everyone. Perfect. So that you all have access. Because the whole, all 3 of you should have should have it so that you get those emails pinged. And it took me like a year and a half to have it actually work. So Greg finally solved it for me. So I've got it and I will send it off to you. Because I had to rely on Iris being like, did you get this? No,
Yes, yes.
so
It's not good. And we
yeah.
try to generally turn around those questions and answers within a week, if humanly possible, within 24 hours is best. But sometimes you have to get information.
Correct. All right.
Do we, as far as those go, do we normally answer the questions, or just say that we have received your email and we will, like, how does that work?
So you may recall, I usually will CC the full board once we put an answer together, but generally we answer the question because that's the preference is that if the community has a question, that they come to us instead of just passing along amongst themselves questions and answers. Come ask us. We want to answer your questions. So to ask the BOE, we answer the question. Most of the times, it may require you to go to administration and say, hey, they're asking about X, Y, and Z. Can you give me a little bit more information so I make sure I'm accurate? Is it okay if they follow up with you? I'll put that in the email, and then you can post an email, thanking them for reaching out to the board for information, and here's the information they were looking for and where they can go for further information.
Okay.
It was created when we had our community audit. The theory was the rumor mill is the worst place to get information. The board should be the best. So we should strive to be the place where people can get their questions answered.
Okay, great.
I have a question. I'm sorry, just for the communications committee. I feel like I saw something and I did not follow up on it yet, but now that we have a new board member, we need to. Bios, updating our bios. Who is in charge of that?
Tracy has been sending around requests for that.
I did. I sent out a request if anybody wanted to.
Yeah, I owe you,
update
Tracy.
their bios. I do need one from Beth because she's new. But Neil and Josh had sent me one. So if you feel like you want to update it since your last appointment, to please forward to me and I will put it on the website.
Tracy, I believe I had sent you one a few weeks ago.
You did. I put it on with a new photo. You sent me another photo.
Okay, so that should be up to date. Fine.
It's on there. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I apologize, I haven't looked, but that photo, is it down of the board?
No, so that was my next question. My
It
next
is
statement
down.
was actually, it's down now.
I took it down and I put our Croton Harmon logo emblem on until
Okay, thank
we
you.
are able to physically be together to take a picture.
Just
So,
quick, take a
and
screenshot.
actually, yeah, what maybe communications can follow up with Jackie Burton on was, I know she was trying to think of some solutions of what she can do to get up-to-date photos of each of us up there. So even if it's not a group shot right now, she might be able to, stop by and take some pictures of you all in your yards. So I know they did that for me a few weeks ago. So yeah, so if communications could follow up with Jackie Burton on that, she might have some ideas with regard to the photos.
Yeah, and there was one other thing I wanted to communications. We had a communications audit, which is on the website, I think on one of the audit pages, which I would reference everyone to that's on the communications committee. Josh, I'm sure you've read it already. Brian, I'm not sure if you have, because that has been the guiding focus for the communications committee in terms of figuring out the gaps that were discovered when the audit was done with the district. So I would refer both of you, Beth and Brian, to that.
Okay.
Great. And then as far as the other board committees go, I will send around the new assignments or the new representatives for each. If you could all then discuss amongst yourselves chairs and meeting times, bearing in mind that when we do have board committee meetings, those do need to be noticed at least 24 hours in advance. So when you set up your meetings, please make sure to copy Tracy on that so she can get a meeting notice out. I know Tracy likes to do one sort of set of meetings for the week. So if you could get them to her well ahead of 24 hours when you can.
Thank you.
I know
one
I've sprung them
question.
on her last minute, but
One question, in terms of liaisons, like CET, I mean, Building Planning Council, Student Faculty Congress, with other entities, who will take care of informing whoever needs to know at the various schools who the liaisons will be for this year? I mean,
I
you know,
think,
certainly we each could contact the appropriate person and let them know who the,
I could
you know,
also
that
do
we
that.
have been appointed for or taken on that role.
I would like to have Tracy send out
Yes.
something to the buildings and to let them know.
Okay, and so
Great.
Tracy, you will also, I guess, send to high school administration and the Student Faculty Congress advisors, that's John Bohanec and Pam Morrison, that Josh will be taking that role on for
Yes, I will.
this year.
Yes, I'll send to all the administration and buildings that I have to send for each
Yeah, because
liaison.
I don't, other than that, it does, I guess, in the steering committee and health and safety, the two coordinators, at the moment, that would be our new athletic director, and Paul Gibbons would have to know who's,
Correct.
okay. And
thank you, Tracy.
Tracy, will you
Oh, you're welcome.
will you let Westport know, or should I just let them know because I deal with them?
Well, they always ask, they send me an email and I tell them.
Okay, so you take care of that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, now we will move on to polling of the board. And does anyone have anything for polling of the board?
No, I guess the only thing I would add as someone who has participated in the reentry task force and listened to the comments that have emanated from parents, from staff, from students, and looking at some of the emails back and forth, I would just say, and this is more for the board and for the public, that everybody who I have seen participating in the reentry task force are really committed to trying to put the best possible plan in place with the appropriate flexibility that we're going to need. I think everybody has been committed to that, and nobody that I have seen has been negative or obstructionist or everybody's moving in the right place, moving in the right direction. And I just wanted to say that because I appreciate what I have seen with a 56-member group could fall apart because there's so many people, and that has not been my experience to date.
Thank you,
And
Neil.
Debbie, I want to commend the students that were on the subgroup that I was in. I mean, it's what I love is they expressed their reactions to certain ideas. They were able to say, hey, this didn't work. No, we need more of that. I felt that was probably one of the more powerful parts of the conversation. I mean, I kept dropping in and out, of course, because of my signal, but and I thought that dialogue there, that opportunity was really really key to having the conversation move. So I want to thank you for that insight to add the students, your team, to add the students, because prior to the meetings prior to that, I think it was a little bit, it wasn't as concrete as to what would work. How can we get this done? So
Right.
thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. We purposely waited to give them a little time to finish out their requirements of the year. We didn't want to overwhelm them. And as soon as I saw that opening, they joined, and they make me so proud. So thank you for saying that. And this you wouldn't know, but several of them have met individually with me because they missed part of a meeting. They wanted to catch up on something. I mean, they took it so seriously. And I just said, anytime you let me know when you want to meet, and we continued the dialogue. But because they missed something because of another, obligation, they wanted to, catch up. And I'm just so proud.
Great. Does anyone else have anything for polling of the board? Okay. Andrea, sorry, I was too quick.
No, I know it took me too long to unmute, but I just wanted to add that, as we started a new school year, that we do have our board goals, and everybody should just kind of look at them again. And, all through our committee work, we're going to start actualizing them. We got sort of pushed back a little bit on our ambition for these goals. So, it's going to be time to pick them up again through sustainability, through culture of respect. Dr. O'Connell, you'll be keeping us up to date with what's going on with the strategic coherence plan, you and John. And then what's our we have 4 goals. Oh, and then
restorative justice.
Restorative justice. So that's, we that's something that we can work on through board development, but we were planning on getting a speaker. And I just wanted to just put our eyes back on those goals as we start the next year.
And Beth, if you need a copy of the board goals, I can direct you to where you can find them on the on board docs, actually.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I think I've seen them, but yes, I'd just like to make sure it's the same thing document I think it is.
Definitely. I'll send you the link. Okay. All
And
right.
I don't want to make everyone crazy, but I did just realize there was something else I wanted to take the time at the retreat. We had a lot of balls that were in the air right before COVID-19 on March 13, 2020, changed our lives. And I think at some point during the retreat, we should actually identify what those balls were and take stock of where we are on them, because I think it would be a mistake to just walk away and let them fall. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm a basketball player, Andrew. Sorry.
All right, and I'm not. So,
the balls were in the air so that we don't let anything.
I would hate to think we were letting anything drop. So I look forward to the clarification.
All right. So items needed for the next board meeting. Our next board meeting will be our retreat on the 14th. We will get the final details on that from board development. I do want you all just to briefly keep on your radar the fact that our next business meeting following that is on August 6th, which per the governor's latest executive order 202.48 expires on August 5th. So it is quite likely that we will be in the same sort of waiting game to see whether that is extended yet again, or if we will be moving into needing to pivot to an in-person meeting per open meetings law. So just something to keep on your radar. Certainly we don't need to worry about it for the next 30 days, but come August 5th, I will be refreshing the governor's website all day, I'm sure.
So just an extra layer on that. I'm sorry, Neil, but I just wanted to say, I know I'm going to be away on vacation at that point, which I wasn't worried about if it's Zoom, but we just have to make sure that we're meeting our requearments.
Correct. So if everyone could also, I know we normally do this and we haven't been quite as proactive about getting that to Tracy given COVID and people's lack of plans as much. But anyone who's going away, if you're going to be away on vacation, if you could just let Tracy know when you're going to be away, that if you're going to be missing a meeting, so that we are aware and we make sure that we have quorum.
I have one request apropos of what you've mentioned, which is what I would appreciate is if board communications, if it's the right people, or administration, could work with Greg Cavallari to figure out when we come back to not having what an executive order suspension of virtual meetings takes place, members of the board can still participate from a remote location, right, with appropriate notice, and that it would be helpful for that member or those members to be able to participate with video. Now, in the board community, in the community room in the high school, with the various monitors that we have, there is, I believe, the technical ability to have the board member participate, being in the corner of each of the screens or something of that nature. I would like just to make sure that if that's going to happen on August 6th, or if that's going to happen at any time in the future, we will be able to have that technology in place, worked out, no bugs, so that anybody who is going to participate from a remote location will be able to do so. We haven't really thought about that before, but now it becomes something that may be of greater urgency, and we should have the technology in place.
So I think, Neil,
Mm-hmm.
we can, I think board officers, we can follow up with Tracy and administration and Greg so that we're all mindful of these things and we make sure we can pivot when we need to. At some point.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Some point where he's not going to
be
continue suspending open meeting law. So
right.
We are going to be back to meeting. All right. So anyone else have anything for next board meeting? All right. So with that, we will be moving into executive session. And for the public, that means that we will conclude our live stream and recording this evening because we expect that we will adjourn immediately following executive session. So recommended action that the Board of Education enters into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person or persons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you all. I will see you on the Google Meet, and to the community, thank you for tuning in to join us for our meeting.
Okay. Hold on, I'm going to stop recording. We're stopped recording. We're good. Did everybody
Because
get
we're
the
still
Google
live.
Meet?
Mm-hmm.
Did everybody